Welcome to you. I am going to try and be as brief as possible, but also give you enough information so that you will feel that you have enough to start and to complete the assessment successfully. So today we're going to talk about assessment 4, which is the written assignment. So all the other assignments in this course is quiz assignments. So I hope that you've all submitted the quiz assignments that are due up to today. If you perhaps missed a quiz assignment for whatever reason, please make sure that you do all the others. Only the best 4 will count. Except for assessment 4, which is the one that we're going to speak about today, and assessment 6. Those ones are compulsory. But for the rest, only the best 4 will count. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just share the slideshow with you again. I'm going to give an opportunity for questions a little bit later. So please do make notes if you have a question to ask. Okay, so the assignment question can be found on my modules if you click on assessment 4. And the question says, from lesson 2, this is the lesson on early modern history, you have to choose one of the following art movements, Romanticism or Baroque. Then you have to write a short essay in which you discuss the following of the movement you choose. What important social, political, economical, and philosophical ideas influence the art of this era? And then you must discuss one artwork by an artist of that movement by referring to the following questions. And we're going to talk about these questions, and they are also reflected in the rubric that is attached to the assignment. And I've also written very brief guidance, which I'm going to elaborate on today. Okay, never write in bullet point format. Okay, you must always write in full sentences. And your answer must be in an essay format. You may refer to the study guide. The study guide are the online lessons, articles from Smart History that's linked to those lessons or the videos, but you must make sure that you reference them correctly as per tutorial letter 301. And this tutorial letter you can find under official study material. Please make sure that you download this from my modules. You may also use books that you may have or books that can be found in the library. Please proofread your work, making sure that it is free from typos, spelling, and language error, and that your writing makes sense. Okay, read through it again and make sure that you've written sentences that are good sentences, that have a verb and a noun. Okay, a lot of you write sentences that are not full sentences. And then remember to insert an image of the artwork. This is compulsory. You can't do an assignment without inserting the image. The reason for this is because sometimes students choose artworks which I have not seen. Okay? I've not seen every single artwork in the world. So it's important that you insert the artwork. Also, you will get marks for labeling your figure correctly. Okay, now before you begin, did you work through the lesson before you complete your assignments, which is spelled incorrectly? Please forgive that. If you also have ARH1501, you don't need to do it because it's the first lesson of ARH1501. And you must also complete the quick quiz. You must download tutorial letter 301 and you must work through it. And you must also watch the video on plagiarism, please. Now, I'm just going to show you this. A lot of you, or a lot of first-year students, what they do is they find information on the internet, either by Googling, or they find history, they find information on Smart History or on Khan Academy or on Wikipedia, and then they copy and paste into their assignments. Okay, what I do when I mark is I copy some of the sentences from your assignment, and I copy and paste it into Google like that. And you will see here that Google very quickly finds where you've copied from. So please don't do that. You are not allowed to copy from any websites. You are allowed to use the information on the websites, but you have to write it in your own words and you have to cite it correctly. Okay, now, is this fine if you write in Baroque and then you've put it in quotation marks? The classical repertoire is crowded, dense, overlapping, loaded in order to provoke shock effects. And its reference, the author is Hein 2021. You will see here that author is 123, the third one from the top. Is this fine, students? No, it is not acceptable. There is no reason to quote this author. You must always write in your own words. In other words, what you must do is you must take this sentence which Ben Hein has written, and you must rewrite it in your own words. And then you must still put the in-text reference in brackets, please, because even if it's not his direct words, it is still information that you found in his article. Okay, for the purposes of this assignment, there is absolutely no reason whatsoever why you should be using direct quotes such as this. So in this assignment, I want to see no quotation marks at all. I want to see things written in your own words and referenced correctly. And if you don't know how to do this, please watch the video on plagiarism, which I've posted in the assignment body on my modules. Okay, your essay needs the following things: an introduction of about 2 to 3 sentences, and I'll show you an example now. A body that answers the question, around 1.5 or maximum 2 typed pages, double line spacing, Times New Roman size 12. A conclusion and then a bibliography with 2 to 3 sources, and the bibliography should be formatted as in tutorial letter 301. And there's the marking rubric. I've also given that to you in the assignment shell. Okay, and as you will see there, you will get marks for the very specific things that is in the question. For the introduction, you will get 10 marks. For the choice of appropriate artwork and correct labeling of figure, you will get 10. So you see why it's important that you insert a picture. And also why I've made this in orange, the correct labeling of figure. All of these orange things you can find in tutorial letter 301. And that's why it's so important that you have that document, because you will see here 30% out of the 100% is just from that tutorial letter. Then you must explain the social, political, economic, and philosophical ideas. That counts for 20%. You must discuss the artwork in terms of stylistic devices, methods, and or materials. That is 30%, so that's very important. And I'll explain to you how to do that. Then you must reference, so you need some in-text references. So in brackets, you must have the author, date, and page number of the place where you found information. Again, you need to consult tutorial letter 301 on how to do that. The bibliography must be in the correct format. Even if you have only 2 or 3 sources, they must be written into the bibliography correctly. Okay, and then I'm going to look at your language, your style of writing, and the general appearance of your assignment. So make sure you write in full sentences, you proofread your work. Also, please make sure that you are using British English and not Americanized spelling. Okay, American spelling is when we lose, for example, in the word colonized, we use a Z with American spelling, but in British spelling, we use an S. Okay, so make sure of those little things. Okay, there's my example. So you are required to choose Baroque, or what is the other one? Romanticism. But I've taken an example from the Renaissance. So obviously you can't use this one because I've not asked for an image from the Renaissance. So this is a very well-known painting by Sandro Botticelli. It's called The Birth of Venus. And this is the one that I'm going to discuss in my assignment. So when you write your introduction, you need to refer back to the question without rewriting it. So some of you will write introductions that is something like, you will, for example, look at this painting and then you will say, the Birth of Venus is a very beautiful painting which is well known. And I chose it because I saw it when I was in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. Okay, this is not an acceptable introduction. Introduction needs to tell the reader what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. So here is an example of a good introduction. In this assignment, I will discuss The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli as an example of a Renaissance artwork. I will show how this work is typical of the time by referring to style, content, themes, and materials, and also how it reflects on social and political order of the time. Okay, this is a good introduction. Then you need to explain the social, political, economic, and philosophical ideas behind this painting. You will find this in the study material. There's lots of information in the study material, but you can also find some of your own sources on Baroque or whatever you choose. You should make notes while you go through the study material, which I hope you've done in any case. And again, write everything in your own words. Then you should also indicate where you see these ideas reflected in the work. For example, if I look at this work, I know that this is a work from the Renaissance. Now, the Renaissance, we know, was a time of cultural rebirth. The world had just emerged from the Middle Ages, and there was a rejection of the power of the church. So artists brought back mythological themes and content in their work. But it was not just because they were rebelling against the power of the church. It was also because there was a revival in the ideas of Greek and Roman myth. So obviously in this painting, we see a Greek myth being depicted. Another thing of this time is that artists found new patrons. So a patron is someone who pays for a work. In the Middle Ages, the church was the most important patron who sponsored artworks. But now, because of the revival in the economy, there were very powerful and rich merchant families, such as the Medicis, who sponsored works. And these works catered to their personal tastes. So we see works that are much more secular, such as this one. Okay, this is an example. So now I've discussed some of the political and ideological and social ideas and how it is reflected in the work. Next, you need to discuss the stylistic devices, methods, and/or materials. So you may say here what materials and methods of making were used. So this is a painting and it was painted with tempera on canvas. And then you might want to say something about tempera. Now tempera is a medium that was developed during the Middle Ages. And this work is quite an early example of Renaissance painting, and tempera was still quite widely used. And then this is what I'm trying to get to now. So it is typical of the early Renaissance that artists still use tempera. It would only be in the later years of the Renaissance that oil paint would be used much more widely. So within this discussion of stylistic devices, we need to do a formalistic description and analysis. So this means, what do you see? And how does this typify the era? So what do we see in this painting? We see figures, and they are painted much like classical Greek and Roman sculptures. So we see here the harking back to the forms and the shape of Greece and Rome, which the Italians thought was the absolute epitome of civilization. And we see here also that this artist was striving for perfection of the human form. See also how this Greek goddess Venus, she is posed in a contrapposto pose, which is also typical of the era. And then you may discuss things such as color or a perspective. It depends on which movement you are looking at. Baroque has its own sort of stylistic devices, and so does Romanticism. So you need to go and look for the specific stylistic devices used in the era that you are researching. Okay, that's called iconography. When we look at the forms and the shapes, the colors, the materials, that's iconography. And then we need to do an iconological analysis. So how does this work look like other works of the era? And this is what I've done when I said to you that certain things are typical of works of this era, such as the human form that is celebrated above everything else. Also, the way that the cloth has been painted very realistically. So in the Middle Ages, we saw the painting of cloths and of humans much more in a flat fashion. And now we're seeing a return to very naturalistic depiction of the human form in the Renaissance era, which we can also see in this painting. Okay. And that is it. And then, of course, you need to write a nice conclusion. Again, the conclusion shouldn't be something like, I really like this painting because it is beautiful and Renaissance is my favorite. The conclusion should say is for something like, for the above reasons, I have chosen this artwork because it typifies the Renaissance through its use of colors, perspectives, its mythological content, and therefore it is a good example. But anything like that, just one sentence to summarize what you've done. Okay, I'm going to give Ruth an opportunity to ask a question. Ruth?
Thank you, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I would like to make sure if I understand, is the assignment essay about the artwork or about the art movement?
Essentially, it's about both. So I want you to tell me about the art movement by using an example. So you're going to say things like, in the Renaissance, the depiction of the ideal human form was very important. This can be seen in the Birth of Venus if one looks at how the human body was painted. That's an example. So you're going to tell me about a movement by giving me an example and by pointing specific things in the example out to me. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And I see here, how many words should our essay consist of? Okay, so Abigail, I'm not going to be strict on word count, but that is why I gave you like a page count. So if you've got an introduction, that's 2 to 3 sentences, and then you're going to write about 2 or 1.5 or 2 pages, and then maybe another 2 or 3 sentences as a conclusion, it should be enough. So rather than try and chase a specific word count, I want you to make sure that you answer to each of the things on the rubric. But I think in the end, your essay will probably be 1,000 or 1,500 words max, if I do a quick calculation in my head. Is that fine? Does it answer your question? Okay, Ruth, I'll give you another opportunity. Ruth, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Ma'am, you mentioned something concerning the Baroque with that paragraph, the high in 2021. that we shouldn't use that word for word. We should rather write it in our own words. Do you perhaps have an example of how we can do that?
Yes, in that video on plagiarism, if you watch that video, there's an example where I've highlighted some text and then used a direct quote, and then there's another example where I paraphrased. So I would suggest that you watch that video. It's a short video. I think it's just about 6 minutes long, but it really explains everything that you need to know about plagiarism and about how to use simple in-text references.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? So let me just show you where that video is. I'm just going to open my my modules quickly. Then I'll show you where it is, because that's I want you to watch that video because it's a very important one. Okay, so if you go into the assessment 4, you will see it's there. There's the video. You must please watch that video. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Remember, if you struggle with something when you do the assignment, you are welcome to email me at any time. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So good luck to all of you. Please contact me if you need help with the assignment. Just do it in time. Please don't contact me a day or two before it's due, because then I might not be able to help you. Okay. Yes, Ruth.
Sorry, last question.
No worries.
Will we find an example of how we should do our cover page in the tutorial later?
Yes, that is in tutorial letter 301. I don't expect you to for this. This is just a short writing exercise. I think I'll post an announcement to that effect as well. You don't need to do a table of contents and a cover page and a list of figures. I'm not expecting you to do that. You know, you can have, you don't even have to have section headings because it's really just a short writing exercise. But I just want you to have an introduction, a body and a conclusion, and a short bibliography. And then, of course, I want you to label the figure correctly. But I think what I'll do is just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, I'll also post an announcement to that effect. But you don't need a cover page. That's not necessary.
And the declaration of the academic honesty?
Yes, please. You must please include that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, students. You must have a wonderful afternoon. I'll post the link to this recording on announcements as well, so that you can come back to it if you maybe forgot something.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.